Morning, ladies and gents. Simon Brown here, doing our Talking Stock on Wednesdays, as we always do. This week, looking at elective and proxy events and how we manage that process on the standard online share trading platform. Probably fairly short. It's not complicated, but I think it's something worth going through. And let's go to... We want to be in that desktop there. So I've logged into my account and I have I think it's for ShopRite, I have an elective event. Now I can action now straight from there. This is, as soon as I log in, online share trading is showing me the outstanding corporate action and saying to me, hey, you got to action it, or I can select the action later. I can also spot it from the home page from within your portfolio, and I'll show you where that sits. So there it is down there. It is indeed ShopRite. I could click on that and go to view elections, that little button down there. Alternatively, my account, elective and proxy events. Pops up a new browser, opens a new browser tab for the actual process to happen into. And what's important here, so this will naturally be AGMs, annual general meetings. It'll also be special or extraordinary general meetings, but it might just be, any elective event. So if a company is declaring a dividend, but you can elect to take cash or shares in lieu of cash, that will be an elective event. Now, in the case of elective events like the dividend I just mentioned, there will be a default. And if you don't let Standard Bank know which way you want to go, they will give you the default. So if you do nothing, you get the default. In the case of AGMs, it's quite simple. If you don't instruct online share trading how you wish to vote, then you don't get voted. You just simply don't vote. And that's very important. Online share trading won't decide how to vote your shares on your behalf. You need to instruct them. Now, in the olden days, they would physically, there would be faxes and emails flying around, and a proxy would be issued and then sent to the meeting where it would be counted in. Now it's done electronic. It's nice. It's simple. This is ShopRite. This is the annual general meeting of ShopRite. As I said, it's a proxy. So I've got until, in this case, 10th of November, which is Monday, 4 o'clock, to make my election. Once I've submitted it, Standard Bank then puts it all together and will send it off to the AGM to be voted on. And it will vote how you want, and it's entirely up to you. Very important, one share, one vote. Now, ShopRite's got some special votes held by Christo Visa, but those are not of our concern when we are deciding how we want to vote. We will get our one share, one vote. We click on the share code. It'll pull up the various different votes that are there to happen. Questions coming in. Let me open my question box. Yeah, Aubrey, so that was a tech issue from my side. That is on the YouTube channel as we speak. Those were the new FANG ETNs from First Rand. If you head to YouTube and search for Standard Online Share Trading, you will find that there. So this is now the AGM. The meeting will be held on the 16th, and online share trading typically wants those in beforehand. Now, it tells you how many shares you've got. Also, you can check all for, against, or abstain, and it's going to be all the different questions that get asked. So, approval of the annual financial statements, reappointment of directors, reappointment of auditors, re-election of the various different directors, and chairperson coming through, etc. So it's all the different categories. Some of them, so it's the directors being reappointed. Then where are they to be elected to, in terms of who's going to run the Audit and Risk Committee, and etc. Who's going to be on those committees. General authority over unissued ordinary shares, in other words, that they can therefore issue shares, which they would use typically for staff incentives and the like, but also perhaps an acquisition. Authority to issue shares for cash. In other words, rather than buying something with shares, they could issue shares for cash and use that cash as they see. General authority to directors and company secretary, non-advisory and implementation of enumeration policy. Very important, those are non-binding, those last two. The implementation of the enumeration policy is always non-binding. Special resolutions, these I'm often quite interested in just to see what they are, why they've got the special remunerations. Yeah, so these will be the same. When the SENS announcement, it'll also be that there will be the physical old pieces of paper that you can submit at the same time. Question coming through: what happens if you want to attend the meeting? That's fine. You can absolutely attend. Contact Online Share Trading. They will, in essence, give you a slip of paper to prove who you are, that you are allowed to attend, and for how many of the shares you get to vote. Yeah, if you've got the same share in different accounts within Online Share Trading, you will have to do this for each account. Because I hold shares across different portfolios in Online Share Trading, so I have to do it in my various different. It's Shoprite, and I'll be voting the same for all of them, but I've got to go and do it within each particular account. Fred, is it recommended vote for issue shares for cash? Does that not lead to dilution? It absolutely does, but in this case, it's typically capped, and we'd have to go and read the annual report. It's typically capped at 5%. It does lead to dilution, even just issuing new shares. I mean, just new shares are dilutory. Just a quick little rabbit hole, and let's quickly pop down it. When you look at headline earnings per share, the number I always like is what we call diluted headline earnings per share. Now, not all companies publish it, but diluted, what it tells you is the shares that have been issued or that have been announced to be issued. I'm saying that badly. Let's say, Fred, you as the CEO, they've promised you 100 shares for Christmas. And they know that you're going to get the 100 shares. You've ticked all the boxes, you will get those 100 shares, but it's currently only November. So they would count that in the share in issue, because their view is they haven't yet been given to you, but they know that they're going to be given to you. So they are dilutory, a big deal. Sort of if Shoprite decided to issue shares to buy Pick and Pay, that would need a special resolution. So this is relatively small deal. So I'm typically comfortable to give the shareholders, the board, that discretion. More just you're asking, you're saying, isn't our vote very small compared to the total outstanding? Absolutely, it is. It's one share, one vote, and let's ignore Christo Visa's. It is one share, one vote. So it is. Our votes don't go very far, but that doesn't ever stop me voting. There's to request a letter of representation. So typically, I'm in favor of voting for most. Then I'll run through. And annual financial statements I was happy with. Auditors, I vote against. Here's why. Quite simple. I only vote in favor of auditors if there is an auditor rotation policy at the company, where they have a stated policy where auditors are rotated on a 5 or in some cases a 10-year basis. If they don't have a stated policy of rotating auditors, I vote against the auditors just as a matter of principle. So re-election, Wendy Lucas Ball, Mahing, yes, Basson, yes, Rock, yes, Basson as chairman of risk, LaRue, Shaw, Rock as risk, yes. Over unissued ordinary shares. Let's quickly go to that unissued ordinary shares. Let me show you what they're talking about in that space there. So I'm going through it down a couple of rabbit holes, but we have some time this morning, so I thought capital structure. So in the case of Shoprite, they have authorized 1.3 billion shares of zero value. And that is the Shoprite ordinary shares of no par value. They've authorized 1.3 billion, but they've issued 591 million, leaving them with approximately 709 million extra shares that they could issue out. So, Fred, to your point, then it is a case of, they could go and issue those shares. It certainly brings some risk. So Fred, when they announce the results of the AGM and the voting, they give you a couple of columns. The first is what percentage of shares were voted. So there's 591 million shares. They will say what percentage of those shares were voted. Now, if you don't vote, you're not counted. The majority carries the day of number of shares that are voted. So if only 10 shares bothered to vote for this AGM, 6 would win the day. So it's a majority of those that are voted. Then they tell you those that voted in favor. They tell you those that voted against, but they also record those who abstain. Now, abstaining to me is always a little bit of a weird process, in terms of surely you've got to view one way or the other, but it is counted and it is recorded. And importantly, it means you've actually got three potential outcomes. Vote yes, vote no, vote abstain. And enough abstains could actually mean that the vote is ultimately not carried. Issue shares for cash, sure. General authority, non-binding on enumeration policy. So I went and had a gander at the enumeration policy and what everyone's earned, and I'm comfortable with that. So I'll vote in favor of those. Special resolutions. So these are remunerations to non-execs, to executive directors, so non-executive directors on their remunerations, etc. Basically, as a director of a listed company, you get paid to attend meetings, and in some cases you get paid quite well. And in fact, you could make a living off it if you can get enough to be paid for. Look, there's hard work, but it's not a bad living. But then if you are a director and say they pay 50K per meeting. So you are a director, you get your 50K per meeting. But then you're also on the Audit and Risk Committee or the Remuneration or Nomination or whatever the other committee is. You also get paid per committee because those committees meet separately to the overall board. So the board will obviously meet, say, 4 times a year. The Enumeration Committee probably might only meet twice a year. Nomination Committee only as required. So I'm comfortable with those. Financial assistance to subsidiaries, related and interrelated entities. So this is, understand how most of these companies are set up. Shoprite is technically a holding company, and within that it'll own different companies. It'll have it'll have Shoprite, Checkers, it'll have their offshore operations, potentially all as individuals. Now, they can, if they've got permission from the shareholders, give financial assistance to those companies. They can't do it without permission, and there's still T's and C's around them doing it. But it does mean that they can give financial assistance. Approval to Subclause 33 memorandum of the incorporation of the company. And I have to be honest, I don't know what subclauses of Clause 33 of the memorandum of the incorporation of the company. So what we can do is we go back to here. And we are looking for full glossies. And that's annual financial report for June 2019. So I'm not going to find it there. Those are just the financials. So I don't actually know what that subclause 33 actually is. So let's try getting to this via another route. Let's see if we can find some more information here. Investors. There's my integrated, so there's my report. So typically the proxies are right at the end. I did see a link there to just the actual proxy itself. And I appreciate I'm being pedantic here in many senses. Just an important point there is the AGM to attend electronically. Of course, these days AGMs are all being done electronically, and the hows and whys, etc. Nope. So let's go to notice of the AGM. So notice of AGM. Just going into details as to what and the details, etc., etc. I had gone through it, but I hadn't seen. So we are looking at subclauses of clause 33, but that's the incorporation of the company. 33, a retiring director retires in terms of. Okay, amendment is, so they're changing a retiring director, and then now they're saying a director who retires in terms of clause 33.5. And what is 33.5? They don't tell us. They are being a little bit obtuse here, not massively so. In essence, they're looking to change the subclause of 33. I'm here under shareholders in terms of, and there's that little bit there. We can see the change to that there. is eligible for re-election, may be re-elected without having been nominated for re-election. Gotcha on that. Okay, in other words, you retire automatically because of process. A lot of boards will have term limits on their directors, but when that term limit's up, the director can come straight back. Recommended such person for election. Yeah, okay, got that point. Yeah, got that point. Okay, so basically this is around the process. They give you here reason for and effect. To provide a process of nomination for candidates for election will enable the company to include a resolution in respect of the election of candidates, as well as provides that nomination may be made up to 4 days before, may not have sufficient in respect. Candidates enable them to make that decision. Okay. 1 year in advance, corporate website. Okay, the effective adoption of the amendment will be that shareholders should have an earlier date, receive notification. Okay, in essence, it's saying that they need to give shareholders more information around directors who are coming into the process. Comfortable with that, so I will leave that sitting right there. So apart from the one, because ShopRite does not have a policy of audit rotation, Caesar is saying that it's going to be volume. I'm sending and I'm checking there. Maybe your volume came back. Who are those affected by repurchase of shares? So if they go into market, they will buy from whoever the willing sellers are. William, so let's say I'm selling my shares. If ShopRite is repurchasing the shares, then they will go into market and repurchase those shares. If they haven't got the authority, then they simply can't do it. Typically it's 5% of shares, and they will buy in the open market. So it's not a forced sale. They're not going to say to you, cool, you got shares, we want them. What they're going to say is we're in the market and we're just one of the buyers who are in the market buying those shares. Yeah, a question coming through. I mean, in many senses, we need to trust the board. I agree 100% on that. I mean, what is the board's purpose? The board is here to run the company on our behalf. We need has expired. We need to be able to trust that board. If we're not trusting the board, then frankly, we shouldn't be invested in the company. We do need to give a fair amount of trust to the board. Otherwise, we should rather actually just sell the company. And there have been, in the past, companies I've looked at, and I thought, actually, you know what, I like the business idea of this company, but I'm not sure that I trust the board of this company, and therefore not happy at all. Fred, when they repurchase shares, do they then cancel these shares or hold them for themselves? So typically what they'll do is they'll hold them, and then at the end of the financial year, they will cancel them. So whereas when they issue shares, we get dilution, when they repurchase and then cancel the shares, our stake in the company goes up by a tiny little bit because there are less shares in total. So we hit the confirm process and it is off to the races. That AGM, and now I forgot what is the date of that AGM, on the 16th. It's in the morning, so we will probably have later that afternoon on the 16th, we will have the T's and C's and who voted what. 16th is Monday week. Yeah, Monday week. The AGM will be held. I won't be attending, and then we can get a sense of how it is. Now, a couple of folks are saying, what happens if you want to attend? Well, then you request a letter of representation, and you certainly can attend. Of course, these days we are attending remotely. The benefit to attending an AGM, and you know, it depends on the company. Sometimes the companies wrap up their AGMs in minutes. Sometimes they have a lot of time for questions, because what will happen at the AGM is questions from the floor. People can raise their hand and ask questions. Now, sometimes the board is not a big fan of questions, and there's not actually much toing and froing in that sense. So there's not really a heck of a lot of purpose to it. Sometimes the chairperson, who obviously runs the AGM, is very inviting of questions, and you get a lot through it. In a virtual environment, obviously that makes a whole lot easier, because now we are actually able to attend these virtually. We don't physically need to attend the head office. You know, I own companies with head offices in north of Durban, Cape Town, most of them in Johannesburg. But also, you know, in this day and age, ain't no one going to meetings and stuff. So you attend via virtual, but you would still need that letter of representation. Yeah, so what you could do is send your votes proxy. So you vote proxy, so your vote has happened, but then you request a letter of representation, and that really is around a sense of saying, well, yeah, I'm gonna send my vote off, but I want to attend anyway, just because I want to hear the questions, or maybe you've got questions to ask, but you've sent your proxy vote just in case things don't work, and then you can change your mind. Ladies and gents, that's it. We parked that there for now, and I'm not seeing any more questions coming through. So this Wednesday session's what we're doing. The Mondays with Dineo, and we're back next Monday. Her and I were both off on consecutive Mondays, which was a bit messy, but holidays are holidays and are important. We're back Monday with our market standard. The Wednesday, I'm going to be looking at listed products that are coming through. I'm going to be looking at using the website, that sort of thing. We did FANGs a couple of weeks ago, the FANG ETNs from First Rand. We did 2 weeks ago, before I went on leave, the 2 new ESG ETFs from Satrix. Those videos are all at YouTube. Just search Standard Online Share Trading, and you'll find the link to all those videos. But if you've got ideas, drop me a mail, simon@justonelab.com. You're welcome to email me if you've got topics and the like that you would like me to discuss on these Wednesday sessions. We'll park that there. I'm not seeing any more questions coming through. Ladies and gents, everyone have a good week further. Stay safe. We'll chat again Monday when Dineo and I will be back for Market Standard. Cheers all.